Earlier this year, an Israeli organization conducted research into the top ailments that afflict corporations today. Here is what they found. Hi, I'm Executive Coach Yuri Galimidi. For the past 13 years, I have been researching the secrets, so to speak, of performance improvement in organizations. Today, I'll share with you the top 5 ailments that afflict most corporations. I'll describe the ailments first, and at the end, I'll recommend approaches which leaders can take to cure these ailments. So let's dive right in. Ailment number 1, the back-to-back-to-back. This is the ailment that afflicts most organizations and causes the most damage. In a survey of 182 executives conducted by the Harvard Business Review in 2017, 71% of the executives surveyed said that they spend too much time in meetings, that these meetings are unproductive, that they prevent the executives from completing their own work and from dedicating enough time to thinking about what's really important to them. Evidently, we are driven by our ever-present anxiety that if we do not attend every single meeting, we might miss something very important, and that we will not be in the know in the unlikely event that someone may raise that unimportant matter in a conversation. Ailment number 2, the overflowing plate. Here is an example of an overloaded work plate which I heard from one of my clients. Every night after I put the kids to bed, I have to go through 50 to 80 emails in my inbox. Then I have to review the deliverables produced by my team members before they get published. So by the time I finish my work every night, it's probably well after midnight. I hardly get 5 hours of sleep and I'm constantly exhausted. Why is it that we feel compelled to work so hard even at the expense of our health and well-being? Many organizations have developed behavioral norms that do not question the effectiveness of the work we do. Rather, the expectation is that you'll get it done even if the work is completely wasteful. Ailment number 3, the micromanager. I remember a time at the beginning of my career as a manager when I used to say to my team members, "Hey Joe, I have to run to a meeting, but can you please work on the XYZ deliverables? And by the way, I have a meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m. with a VP, so I need that deliverable by that time. Sorry if I don't have time to explain to you exactly what I need, but I'm sure you'll get it." At 6 p.m. that night, I would ask my team member, "How is the report coming along? Let me see what you've got so far." And as soon as I laid my eyes on it, I said, "Oh my God, this is all wrong. This is not at all what I expected. You know what? Don't worry about it. I'll do it myself tonight." You can only imagine how my team members felt about this. Micromanagement is an ailment that afflicts most organizations. It affects both the manager and his or her team member. But why do we micromanage? The 2 main reasons are: number 1, we do not take the time to explain to our team members exactly what we expect of them. And number 2, we do not trust our team members that they will do the job to our standard of expectations. Ailment number 4, the chronic crisis mode. One of the CEOs the Israeli researchers interviewed told a story of when she was sitting in a very important board meeting and she received a text message from one of her VPs saying, "I need you very urgently." "I'm at a board meeting," the CEO replied. "I'll call you when I get out." As you can imagine, the CEO expected the worst and could not be focused on the board meeting for the rest of the time. As soon as the board meeting ended, the CEO called her VP. "What happened? What happened?" she asked anxiously. "Oh, it's nothing," said the VP. "I called John and we were able to solve the problem very quickly." So many organizations tend to operate in crisis mode all the time. And mostly these manufactured crises are completely uncalled for. But behaving as if a volcano is chronically about to erupt 24/7 causes enormous organizational inefficiencies, distracting so many people from working on what is really important. Ailment number 5, toxic relationships. This ailment may not be as common, but it is certainly the most lethal. The deadliest variant is the toxic relationship between the boss and her or his direct report. Many researchers on the negative effects of stress report that a toxic relationship with the boss is the third most stressful life condition after losing a loved one to illness and after divorce. Other forms of workplace toxicity come from bullying by other co-workers. And as you know, the effects of bullying can be devastating. Curing the ailments. Curing these ailments is not simple, but it can be done, and here is how. Number 1, changing corporate culture and acceptable norms of behavior has to come from the very top. So the first step for you as a leader of your team, your department, or the entire organization is to consider whether your organization's ailments are important enough for you to invest your time and energy in curing them. Number 2, assuming you decide that curing these ailments is a top priority, the next step is to assess the behavioral ailments of your organization and to decide which ones you wish to address first. Step 3 is to define the new norms of behavior that will address the challenges at hand. A. If you are seeking to change the endless meeting syndrome, set up new rules that will eliminate unproductive meetings, that will determine who should participate in each type of meeting and who should not, and also develop guidelines for conducting effective meetings. B. If your organization is chronically overworked, develop guidelines for work planning and for readjusting deadlines when your overload threshold limit has been reached. Here you'll have to think about how to monitor the workload and who is responsible for doing the workload readjustment, when and how. C. If your organization is suffering from micromanagement disease, I recommend hiring an executive coach to work with the managers who are the worst offenders. D. If your organization is in chronic crisis mode, which is causing constant switching of priorities and lower productivity, you should do a little research into who and what is causing the triggering of the crisis fuse. You can implement a leadership support mechanism whereby the offenders will have to call a crisis support line, so to speak, possibly staffed by an executive coach or somebody else, to help them assess if it is a true crisis or an imaginary one. And last, if your organization is suffering from excessive toxic relationships, I recommend that you hire someone to help employees develop their emotional intelligence and cultivate a more compassionate and productive workplace. Step 4 is to set up support processes and resources needed to implement your solutions. Then train your organization in the new norms of behavior and then roll out the new processes. If these solutions sound a little too radical to you, I recommend that you read billionaire investor Ray Dalio's book, Principles of Life and Work, where he describes the fascinating processes and systems he implemented at his hedge fund Bridgewater. If your organization is hurting because of any of these ailments, and if you want to discuss how to cure them in your specific situation, please contact me at yuri@thewilltochange.com. Until my next video, please take care and stay safe.